Hello everyone and welcome to today's Yamdu webinar. I'm Mick from Yamdu, and today I'm going to be giving you a little overview of how you can optimize your film production workflows with us. So it will start with a brief presentation just outlining some of the main functions and features of Yamdu, and then we'll jump right in and take a direct look at everything that Yamdu provides. So you're all very welcome. I appreciate you joining today, and let's jump right in and just get a sense of, first of all, exactly what Yamdu is. So you can see here that we have a film set, and of course any large-scale production or even a small-scale production of any sort of visual content can get very quickly quite chaotic. There's a lot of people involved, there's a lot of information to manage, and the goal we have at Yamdu is to simplify this and make everything run smoothly. So just to give you a sense of how we do that, I'm going to give you this little presentation. Our aim is to be the #1 content production hub for next level collaboration. That means bringing everyone into one place where they can effectively do their work, where they can find information, and where they can communicate things very efficiently. So I want to talk first of all about the challenges that we see a lot of our client base facing. And they generally tend to be the same regardless of the type of projects that they work on. So for a start, for example, they're often working on multiple projects at the same time. That's never easy. It means that there's lots of information to be managed. There are projects that are in different phases of production, so there are different challenges. And if you lose sight of all of these things, it's very hard to get a clear sense of where everything stands. Of course, as a consequence of this too, you end up with data silos because of the fact that people simply don't know where information is. If everyone is working with their own program or their own tool, it can be very difficult to collect everything together. Whereas in Yamdu, everything is there for everyone to work with. All of the detail is perfectly available at any time, and it just makes everything very easy. Of course, as I just mentioned, when every crew member is using his or her own tool, it just basically makes it very difficult to connect everything. And it means you send a lot of emails, it means you make a lot of phone calls, it makes things very difficult. And of course, if people are using a mixture of, let's say, Excel and Dropbox and Google Suite and lots of other programs as well, big and small, it just leads to a lot of fatigue. You need to collect information, or you spend all day hustling between different types of software. Well, obviously that gets pretty draining after a while. So imagine a scenario where everything was brought under one roof. It would make it so much easier to engage with information and to find the detail that you're looking for. And finally, here you see that we have information hard to find or lost. It couldn't be more simple than that. You need something, you can't find it, and you spend hours searching for it. You have to contact people to find where it might be, or else you simply can't find something. It could be during the course of the project, or it could be afterwards. In both cases, it's not much fun, it's a waste of time, and of course it can lead to serious problems further down the line if you can't find a contract or you can't find some important piece of information. So a question we like to ask all of our clients, and we find it quite instructive, is do you even know what tools your crews are using? Generally speaking, people don't. People have a vague sense of certain things that are being used, but they don't know everything. And that, of course, is a significant issue. So with Yamdu, again, you can take all of these different functions and bring them under one roof. You could allow isolated solutions for everyone, or you could simply use Yamdu. So that's in fact the reason we built this system. It's built by filmmakers for filmmakers. We understand the industry, the processes involved, and all of the frustrations as well. So basically, it's built by people who understand directly why the system needs to exist. So what do we offer? What can we do to help you with this process? Well, first of all, Yamdu is your single source of truth. You can basically avoid stressing over scattered production data. All of your assets are under one roof for everyone to utilize. So if it's in Yamdu, it's up to date, it's shared effectively, and it's going to be saved there long term. It also cuts out the dull bits from pre-production. You can weave information through all stages of production, from preparation to shooting to post, and things that would take up time, be quite mundane, drain hours that you could better spend on creative matters. We can give you that time back. That's a very important part of what we do. And of course, Yamdu brings your crew together. Might sound very simple, but it's highly effective if everyone is pointed in the same direction, if they're aligned and very clear on what needs to be done. So again, in avoiding floods of emails, and you can see all interactions grow and take place again under one space. So let's basically boil it down to what we're trying to do. We're offering you simultaneous project management. You can do everything at once. You can have multiple projects running. You'll be able to oversee all of them at once, and we'll collect the important information for you as you go. You have team communication, so everyone can communicate and find information and discuss things and collaborate directly within Yamdu. You have secure file sharing, which we'll go into in depth, where everything is collectively and managed and shared. And of course, you can manage all of your resources, whether you're talking about cameras or lighting rigs or studios or editing bays or even the freelancers and employees that you work with. All of these can be managed directly in Yamdu. And finally, you can prepare for growth. If there's one thing we want to do for you, if there's one service ultimately that we want to provide, we want to give you the opportunity to grow. By making it easier to manage lots of different processes, you essentially buy time to grow, to expand, to take on more projects, and to basically build the company that you foresee when you start any enterprise. You obviously don't think I want to expand to a certain point and stop there when it's nice and comfortable. You want to be ambitious. And in this industry, of course, anything you can do to save time and effort and reinvest that effectively is very beneficial. That's where we see Yamdu fitting in. So I just want to give you quickly, before we jump directly into Yamdu, an overview of what we can do for you in some of the most important phases of production. So in pre-production, of course, we provide a script development and importation. So maybe you're creating a script directly, you can create that in Yamdu. Maybe you're importing it from Final Draft, you can do that too. You can also, if you want to, completely break down the script. You can create tags of different elements you require and create a full script breakdown. You can also create shot lists, so you can map out visually how your project looks. You can file share and collaborate directly within Yamdu. And of course, we have casting directly built into the system. We have location scouting, resource planning, and of course, for scheduling and for management of time, we have company and project calendars. And whatever kind of workflow you work on, whether it's commercial or a TV show or a feature film, we have workflow templates for every one of these examples. So it doesn't matter. There's never a scenario where someone comes to us and says, I have a very specialized niche and it's not exactly what I think you're trying to provide. We always say we're not trying to provide any one thing. We build workflows around what you require. So we also, of course, in production, when you're moving into that phase, provide crew communication so you can share important details very effectively. You can manage all of your assets effectively too, especially when you're shooting and you need props and costumes and resources and freelancers and everything else to be effectively controlled. And you have, of course, a production calendar where you can outline the entirety of production, how long it may take, and elements within that. And of course, when it comes to the basically granular planning of the entire schedule, you have a shooting schedule where you can break up into shooting days all of the different scenes or shots or content items you're working with. And of course, you need to communicate information about day out of days and call sheets and things like this too. And of course, all of that can be done directly through Yamdu as well. And finally, when you move past production, when you're in post, when you're doing your first cut and final cut and agency reviews and so on, you can do all of that with Yamdu. You can plan this effectively with our production schedule. You can review video files directly within the system. You can share files and distribute information effectively. And you have collaboration, commenting, and the ability, of course, which is something we find people are very positive about, to create credits very quickly. We have a credits creator that effectively takes all of the mundane work out of the equation, and people are generally quite happy about that process as well. So let's keep your eyes on the big picture, and Yamdu will take care of the small details that'll help you get to where you're going. I'm now going to share my Yamdu with you. I hope the presentation has given you a nice sense of what it is Yamdu is aiming to do, but of course let's give you a practical sense of that. So I want you all to imagine now that we're jumping into your Yamdu and allow yourself to kind of visualize what it would be like if you had Yamdu to manage all of your various projects. So I'll just share quickly and then we can take a look together. So now I think all of you should be able to see my Yamdu right here. The very first thing you'll see when you enter Yamdu is that you have this dashboard, this mission control, so to speak, where you can see all of the key details you're working with. So what projects are you currently working on? What tasks do you have to complete? What tasks are maybe even overdue and require you to take a look? And you also have, of course, your company database, which we'll take a look at in one moment. But first of all, I want to point out that right at this level, you have this so-called, let's say, a God view calendar, where you can see not just the information from one project, but from all projects in one location. So if you have, in this case, two projects running simultaneously, you can see the production schedules from each one. You can see what phase of production you're in, whether it's the first draft of a script or casting in the other project. You can see your production meetings, deadlines for tasks, everything in one place. So right away, you can center yourself and you can get a clear sense of where your project is. In addition to this, of course, we have the company database. So here you'll be able to collect your employees and staff and manage their access rights. So they have their own personal area. You have an address book where you can collect all of the different pieces of information from the freelancers that you work with. So it will collect everyone in one place and you can see all of the relevant information about everyone you've ever worked with. You can add them to future projects. You don't have to worry about losing important information when you finish a project. So you have these incredible profiles of detail that can be reused at any point. And you also, of course, have databases of actors, locations, costumes, and props. So imagine a scenario where you finish a project and not even the actors you worked with or the talents you worked with, but even the people that you considered working with are automatically saved and organized in your own personal company database. It's an incredible feature and it allows you then to kind of see information, choose which information is relevant to you. You can even filter this database to see who might be a good fit for future projects. So you can filter by age range, by languages, talents, and so on. And the same concept goes for locations as well, costumes too, props as well, but it collects everything. So you don't lose information. You finish a project, people think, of course, okay, everything is spread out, it's all disparate, I won't find all of the detail again. When you finish a project in Yamdu, we've essentially collected everything for you so that when you come back in, you're starting a new project, you've every important piece of information there at your disposal from day one. I also want to point out a couple of other important features. We have resource planning, so you can manage your resources as effectively as possible, whether they are pieces of equipment, like let's say some of your cameras. Let's just zoom out and get a sense of what bookings I have here. So we can see what I'm using on what project for how long. Do we have draft bookings? Do we have maintenance and repair bookings? Immediately you can get a very clear sense of when things are in use. So the resource planner is very, very helpful for this. It's also very, very helpful for managing freelancers and crew. So you're not just seeing information about physical resources, you're seeing, of course, the personnel you're working with, when they're working on things, for how long. You can even project and forecast and see when it might be a difficult period, when lots of people are busy, where it might be not the best time to have an additional project on top. Or you could even, of course, if you're more ambitious, think, well, maybe we need to get some more people in for a certain period to make sure everything runs smoothly. So we have resource planning built directly in as well. And one of the latest features that we've added, something that we're currently working on right now, and I just want to give you a little sneak peek, is the timesheet function. So if you're working with personnel again and you need to keep track of what it is they're working on and for how long, you can do this. So let me just turn off the filter so you can see what I mean. You can essentially add people, track the projects they're working on, track what they're working on for how long. So we can see the example here of James Miller, who's been working for the last few days as on pre-production, working 8-hour days, and you can see that it collects the time, it collects the information, it puts everything together for you. So this is something we're going to build out a little bit more, but right now you can see it's already a very useful function. You could export this at any point as a PDF or a CSV or Excel file, and essentially you have this function to track what people are working on for how long, and get a very clear sense of how much work they're doing on various projects. And again, some interesting things coming up in future regarding these functions. So these are all company level functions where you're collecting details, saving information, finding useful long-term valuable things within Yamdu that you can work with. But let's move back from this company overview, this repository of all important information, to a project. So again, back here on the dashboard, I now want to jump into one project. In this case, to start with, Love at Sunset, which is a feature movie. Some of you may already be familiar with it. When I click into this, I'm now immediately in the dashboard for this project. I can see that, okay, someone has added a little welcome message to the project to let us know that we can use Yamdu to find what we're looking for. Don't be afraid to look around. You can see that I have various tasks that I need to focus on, and maybe some subtasks even within them. I can mark objects I want to keep track of. And I also have a live feed here of all of the important information that's happening in this project. This might seem like something quite simple, but think about how many times you've tried to check in, so to speak, on a project, let's say on a Monday morning, and you don't really know where to begin. How do I find out how it's developing? In Yamdu here, I have a live feed where I can see, okay, someone added a location permit. Maybe there's been some updates. Maybe there's new information. I can click directly in and take a look and see what's going on. So what an incredible ability to have to just catch up very quickly on all of the recent information. What else is important here? Well, we have the crew area. So let's say I'm not a producer, I'm just someone who's just been invited to the project. Well, I can see everyone I'm working with. I can see the crew list. I can see all of this information right here. I can see all of the different departments we're working with, who's working within them. And I can, of course, see the access rights as well. So I can see if I'm the administrator, of course, if I'm looking from a very high level perspective, I can see what each person can see and do within Yamdu, which of course is a very useful tool. So I have that function. We've also added something new. It's called the open position. When you're starting hiring and you know you need to fill certain positions, but it might be months before you actually bring these people on board, you can just create these little placeholders where you can say, well, we're going to need a co-producer or a second unit director, and we'll find them eventually. But for now, let's insert them into the crew as open positions, just so we're aware that eventually we'll be adding people in these roles. So you have all of the crew together in one place. The most important thing, of course, is that you have all files and documents securely managed as well. So one of the things that our clients often tell us is that they're quite fatigued by a workflow that involves lots of different software, lots of different information, lots of information that is siloed, hard to find. It's so much better if you can bring everything together in one place. And in files and documents in Yamdu, you can create the room and object structure that you want. So in development, for example, you would be able to add scripts and treatments and images and documents and anything else that would be of interest. So you can see all of these different functions right here. So I can click into this script and take a look and see what's relevant. I can see, for example, if there's information here that I need to share. I can see if there's a PDF file that I want to share externally. I can click directly on that and I can download that, or I can download it with a watermark, or I can send it via email should I wish to. I can do all of these different things directly using Yamdu. So you have all of these different functions to work with. And of course, we can communicate directly about everything because Yamdu is a communication tool in itself. We don't need to send lots of different pieces of information. We can simply communicate about a specific thing in Yamdu directly. Also, as a part of this, of course, what about not just distributing information, sharing information, but tracking important detail about cast and crew? If you need to manage your contracts, for example, you can do this quite easily. Yamdu automatically actually creates a contracts structure. So you have a crew and a cast area where you can collect information. So you can see, has a contract been signed? What's your relationship with your clients? Anything you need to see. For example, here in Natalie Farmer's profile, we can see exactly what she's being paid, for example, what her contract is, when it was signed. And you can imagine the long-term benefit of having that information at your fingertips, as you see here. So you have something that you can reuse, and if someone comes back 6 months later and says, how much did we pay the line producer? Well, you can immediately go to the project in question and find that information. And finally, in files and documents, this centralized area for managing all detail, we have the ability to work with visual content. So let's fast forward. We've finished production, or we're in production. We're creating dailies, and we want to review them, discuss them, maybe discuss different takes, maybe discuss VFX. Not only can you play back the content in Yamdu, as I'm going to do now, but you can actually, and let me just turn off the sound, you actually also have the ability to comment on that generally, or you can jump to a specific point in the video and comment on that directly. So you can say at 35 seconds, there's something I'd like to change. It's too dark, or it's not quite what I was envisaging, or can we see the other take? Can you add a new version? You have all of these functions built directly into this, as you can see. So Yamdu is not just file sharing for documents and images and mood boards and things like this, but it's also visual content. And if we link to information externally, then it's just one click away. So you can imagine, again, the benefit of being able to work like this as a result of having Yamdu as your primary ecosystem for all project information. So I don't want to focus too much on general tools because, of course, they're built to be highly intuitive. But just to point out in passing, you have task management, so you can keep track of your tasks, or you can assign tasks to other people. You have very clear deadlines, so you know how things are developing. And all of those appear also in your project calendar. So I can see within this project what I'm working on, the meetings and events I'm involved in, the deadlines for the various tasks I'm working on. And of course, I can see here the production steps and stages for this project. So we're moving from the first to the final draft of this project, and I can see this right here. I can share events with other people, and I have a very clear sense of what's going on in the project. And of course, if I want to, I can filter out certain pieces of information, or I can subscribe to this using Google or Apple or Outlook or any other calendar I prefer. But where is the production schedule information coming from? These green bars here telling me that I'm working on the final draft of the script. It's coming from the production calendar. So here I have an active production scenario, as you can see. And when we click in here, we'll see that I've basically outlined several steps of production. So we can see that we're moving from development in August all the way through to final cut in the middle of next year. And you can see that, okay, in this simplified version, one thing follows another in a very clear sense. The idea here is that you're not working with, let's say, Excel, where you can create cells for different events and you can map them out in a somewhat similar fashion, but you can't really very effectively change that detail. And especially you can't distribute those changes and share those changes effectively. Whereas in Yamdu, if I update the final draft here and say that it's going to take a little bit longer, because of the dependencies I have, it'll simply move the subsequent steps further ahead. So everything kind of moves the way you want it to. Everything is interconnected. You can move things manually. You can always get a clear sense of the durations of various steps, and you can reuse these structures across multiple projects should you wish to. So if you have a structure you like, you can basically reuse it every single time you want to. So yeah, you have all of these different functions. And of course, when you update them, they all automatically update in the calendar as well. So again, basically collecting everything as you want it right here. So let's focus now on something that's, of course, quite important, the content that you work with. We talked about different workflows. So in Yamdu, you can work with scenes, you can work with shots, you can work with content items. But let's say you're working with a screenplay. You can create it directly in Yamdu, or you can simply import it So you can import it from Final Draft, from Celtex, even a PDF file if it's in the right format. When you do that, Yamdu can read the information. It can put everything together for you. So you can import the script. You'll see that there are scenes and sets and characters within that script because Yamdu can read the information, and then it will basically put them all together for you directly within the system. So it has now imported the full script for me. This is a short 13 scene script, but it's pulled all of that in. It's found the characters in each scene, and it's found the setting and description and so on, the set, and all of this detail. And if I click into any one of these scenes, I can see more information. So this is where you're going to save a huge amount of time in Yamdu. I import a script. Okay, it's pulled the characters out directly. I've already done some casting for these characters, so it's showing me the actors involved as well. But I can now either manually start selecting various outfits for the costume, various outfits for the characters. I can kind of play around with this now and add everything. Or if I want to, I can simply tag the screenplay directly. I can open up this scene and I can go right here and say, okay, old map, that's a prop. So basically, I'm creating a breakdown now very easily by just tagging things directly in the script. When I add them, they get added to the scene, of course, but they'll also be then collected in the relevant departments. So we'll see shortly now that when we leave this, the old map will have been added as a prop right here, and this will be also shared with the relevant department. So let's go and just see what that means. If we go to production design right now, we will see right here that the information has been added. So under production design elements, we find old map, tattered book, and so on. If we click into old map, we can then suggest different options for this. So we can say, okay, we have some suggestions we'd like to add. We can select the one that's the best option. You have all of these different functions to work with. So everything can be tagged and connected. Your sets can be attached to filming locations so that you know that if it's Ferry Ramsey's deck, that it is going to be shot at Ari Studios, for example. So you have all of these different functions built directly in, and you can link everything together. Same for makeup and hair, same for cast, all of that detail as well. So we will see our characters, we will see the actors playing them, and of course, any actors that we considered for various roles will automatically be saved to our database as we saw earlier. So everything is interconnected. The breakdown is very dynamic. And you can see too that if we over time need to add a new script or change the existing script, we can do that without any loss of information. So for example, here you have scene one with the old map. I can edit this script. I can change the detail. I can update the information and save it as I go directly within Yamdu as well, which is of course a very useful tool. So that's one way of working, of course. I just want to point out too that you have other workflows as well. So if we go to a different project, for example, I want to show you quickly two different things. The first one is that if you're working on episodic content, you have full episode control in Yamdu. You can create as many episodes as you want, and then you can assign information to various episodes. So you can have shooting blocks and episodes, and we have people working on telenovelas where it's basically 5 shows a week, pretty much all year long, with maybe a short 2-week break at some point. They use Yamdu to manage every single one of those episodes, or more likely in that scenario, the shooting blocks, because that's the way that they organize the detail. The other thing I want to show you too is if you're not working with a script, you can simply work with shots. You can work with shots. You can map out everything as you want, whatever way you want, and you can create an AV script so you have audio and visual side by side. So you can basically have a very simplified script structure. You can collect everything into a storyboard so that everything is, collected. Of course, there's no images in this example, but if you wanted, you would very easily see that by uploading various shots. And one other thing we do offer as well, of course, are content items, which are pieces of information that are not necessarily scenes, they're not necessarily shots, they're more pieces of information. It could be an interview, it could be behind the scenes footage, drone footage, B-roll, things for reality TV. It's basically a completely open format for you to play around with. And all of these things feed into the ultimately the shooting scheduling and everything that follows from that as you proceed. So let's kind of zoom in on that particular workflow. We've broken down the script, we've added all of the information, and now even if that's still ongoing, we need to create a shooting schedule and start sending out call sheets. So if I go to shooting schedule here, you can see that I have an active scenario. So let's just click in, let's click edit and see what we have to work with. So essentially, when I import my script, all of my scenes are here to work with now. So you can see everything that I imported is here. I can select everything right now. I can drag it here to my shooting phase, and now I can start scheduling the information. I can select the columns I want to see displayed. I can very easily reorder strips. I can see unscheduled information if I need to. And I can immediately get to work. So let's say I've got a 3-day shoot. I can simply create a couple of day breaks or 3-day breaks in this example, and I can just start, playing around. So we're going to break it up something like this perhaps. Maybe it would make more sense to shoot some of the day exterior scenes together. So I can manually change this, or I could automatically add day breaks or reorder the strips. But I can basically figure out what works. So you can do this. It's very agile. It's just dragging and dropping. I can enter the start and end times. I can also, if I want, add banners. So I could say, for example, that before we move from a day exterior to a day interior, maybe we have to have a company move from one location to another. So we can enter all of that detail. You can see all of that information right here. And I very quickly just created a simple shooting day. Okay, it might be somewhat simplified, but you get the idea. You can input all of the information that you need to right here. I can save this. I can come back and edit it more in future, but let's just say I save it right now. What does that mean? Well, not only is it saved here, other people can engage with it. Your colleagues within the project can, of course, take a look. And you can immediately, if you want, create a PDF export. Let's say a client wants a copy of a preliminary schedule. You can do that. You can even create, of course, a preliminary schedule for budgetary reasons as well. You can export that so you can see, okay, what does it look like by shooting day? You can also immediately export the day out of days based on this schedule. So that's another function that you have, which is, I think, again, quite useful. As well as that, when you go into the department-specific areas in Yamdu, you'll be able to see, for example, that the day out of days for actors, for costumes, for props, basically tells you all of the information about the relevant elements involved in your shoot. So you can do all of these different things, but perhaps the most interesting time-saving function is that I can immediately, when I return to view mode, create a call sheet. So I can create a call sheet for a shooting day right here. And when I do this, Yamdu will actually put the information together for me. So I can click time, a date, time, and a title, click next. And when I click on shooting day here and create, it will now collect the information for me. It will put everything together for me. So it will add all of the cast details, the call times, the nearest hospital and police department, the location information if there's a location attached to a set, basically everything that I want to work with. I can choose the template I want to work with, but I can immediately see where we're shooting, the scenes we're shooting, the cast involved, their call times, and I can then edit everything here. So I can say, okay, I prefer my call times to be underneath the PDF header, for example. Maybe I want to add the, let's say the crew list on page 2. With one click, I can do that. I can turn everything into a text field if I want to edit further. I can basically move everything around until I have the exact structure I want. And perhaps the greatest thing is, after creating my first shooting day call sheet, I can then essentially create call sheets for every subsequent shooting day very easily. So I can use an existing template and simply reuse that on every subsequent shooting day. So I keep the same design, but I update the detail. And of course, you can see there are so many different functions I can add, whether it's text fields or page breaks or anything else that I find relevant. So you have all of these incredible functions built directly into Yamdu, as you can see. So we've now taken a look at so many different functions within Yamdu. We've seen how you can oversee multiple projects, how you have all of your information about crew and documentation and task management and scheduling in one location. You can create full breakdowns, shot lists, you can create AV scripts, you can create content items, you can storyboard, and you have full planning control. So you can create in-depth, very easy to use shooting schedules, and you can use that to generate call sheets. You can manage all of the resources you work with. And of course, you have all of the different department specific areas as well, from casting to costuming to makeup and hair, locations and sets, and production design. A couple of other things I'd like to point out quickly as well. We offer financing, so you could add all of the financing partners that you work with. And essentially, let me just say that it's okay not to save changes. We offer sustainability as well, and we offer credits. And one thing to point out, when you send the call sheet that I have just created, you can track the sending report too. So everyone receives the call sheet, they see who it's been sent to, and basically they'll have their call times displayed clearly, and you can see if it's been sent, received, viewed, pending, rejected, whatever it might be. So just to point out quickly, you can basically with financing track who's funding your project, how much they're putting into it, any deliverables that might be linked to that, all of that can be added right here. So you always have a sense of where the money's coming from and how much each person is contributing. But a couple of things we're very excited about. So right now, we've launched the first of several features for sustainability. Right now it's locations and catering. And what you're able to do is essentially add all of the power consumption details for each of the locations you work with. So you can define what sort of energy you're working with, how much of it you use, you can forecast how much you expect to use, and whether or not it was better or worse than what you thought was going to occur. The same works with your heating consumption as well. And you can see that you have the ability to add this for every single location, whether it's in this case RE Studios, where we can write in if it's certified green, how big it is, and the energy type on site, or any other place. So first of all, that's very important. That's hard information to collect. Now you can do it very easily with Yamdu. It's been quite a big hit since we launched it recently. The other part of the first phase is catering information about people's dietary preferences. So you have numerically this overview of how many people are willing to go without meat once a week or generally. So again, all of that relates to the carbon footprint, and you can export that information, share it with craft services, of course, very easily. So you have all of these different functions directly involved. And finally, I just want to point out too that we have a credit creator as well. So you can very easily create credits in seconds. Our clients often tell us, okay, we scrambled to create credits right at the end because we kind of put this, towards the end. We didn't think about it during production, but now suddenly we need this information. Well, in Yamdu, it's already there. Everything is already available, so you can simply go ahead and generate credits. You can edit this area, you can add additional fields, you can add additional people, you can change titles and so on, but you can do that very quickly. We even had a client recently mention that they spend, I think, 2.5 days creating a credits list, just a list, just an Excel list in their case. And of course, when you think about all of the hours involved, and it was in fact 2 people working on that process, that's a huge amount of revenue that could have been spared simply by using what we offer here in Yamdu. And of course, with sustainability too, we're hoping that by foregrounding green production, it's just improving generally the environmental ethos of every project you work on. And in addition to that, it just makes it easier to collect important information. So that is pretty much everything that Yamdu offers in a little overview. I hope it's been clear. I think it's important to get a very clear sense of what Yamdu is and what it can do. And of course, anyone who's joined today is welcome to continue communicating with us. We want to hear from you. We're happy to talk through your particular workflow and see what we can do to make that more efficient. So you can find, for example, our pricing structure on the website. You can contact us directly if you have any questions. We have something to suit everyone, and we're always interested in your workflow and how we can help you build what you need in order to have the outcomes you're looking for. We want to save you time, effort, and of course revenue, and give you the ability to reinvest all of that in what's important on any project. So we're all about growth. We want to help you do that. And we want you, after you receive this recording, to not be afraid to reach out to discuss things with us. We will help you do things more efficiently. We'll save you time. And I think that's the most important thing anyone has to work with when they're working on visual projects. So again, I would just like to say thank you very much for joining. It's been a pleasure to show you all around Yamdu, and I do hope to speak to all of you very soon. So thank you very much, and good luck.